People love to say Superman was the first superhero, but they're flat out wrong. Before the Man of Steel ever took flight, a whole roster of weird and wonderful heroes were already fighting the good fight, from masked magicians like Mandrake to jungle protectors like Phantoma, and even sharpshooters like the Arrow. These are the real pioneers, the forgotten heroes who built the foundation of the entire superhero universe. Even if most people have never heard of them, they deserve to be remembered. Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is a forgotten marksman who deserves his due. The Arrow. This wasn't just some Robin Hood knockoff. Debuting in November 1938's Funny Pages Volume 2, number 10, the Arrow predates the more famous Green Arrow by a significant margin, carving out his own niche in the nascent superhero genre. Masterminded by Paul Gustafson, this vigilante was a master archer, a regular William Tell, battling criminals and spies with pinpoint accuracy and a quiver full of ingenious trick arrows that would make Hawkeye jealous. He wasn't just firing regular projectiles. We're talking about arrows that could explode, release nets, or even emit blinding flashes of light. The Arrow was a pioneer, one of the first heroes to rely on the bow and arrow as his primary weapon, establishing a heroic archetype that would later be perfected by the likes of Green Arrow and Hawkeye, proving that sometimes the simplest weapons, wielded with skill, can be the most effective. His legacy lives on even if his name has faded. Sliding into the number 9 spot is a hero whose powers were as unique as his name, the incredible Amazing Man. This wasn't just another muscle-bound brawler. Amazing Man, who first appeared in his own title, Amazing Man Comics number 5 in September 1939, possessed the truly remarkable ability to transform his entire body into a cloud of green mist. Imagine that, becoming an intangible emerald vapor, able to slip through the tiniest cracks and navigate impossible spaces. This power, the brainchild of Bill Everett, who would later gift the world with Namor the Submariner, was unlike anything seen before in the burgeoning superhero scene. But that's not all. When he was in his human form, he had superhuman strength and durability, making him even more formidable. He was a truly unique hero. Amazing Man was a testament to the boundless creativity of the golden age of comics, proving that the only limit to a hero's power was the imagination of their creator. Blazing into our number 8 spot is a hero who truly embodied the power of fire, the Flame. This wasn't just a guy who could light a match. Debuting in Wonder World Comics number 3 in July 1939, the Flame was a human inferno, a pyrotechnic powerhouse who could generate scorching flames from his very being. Created by the legendary Will Eisner, who is considered one of the most important contributors to the development of the graphic novel, and who would later go on to create The Spirit. Imagine him soaring through the air propelled by jets of fire, or manipulating existing blazes to his will, turning any fiery situation to his advantage. His powers were not only formidable, making him a force to be reckoned with, but also visually spectacular, setting him apart in a rapidly growing field of costumed adventurers. The Flame was a testament to the raw power and visual dynamism that the superhero genre could embody, a character who literally burned bright on the comic book page. Taking the number 7 spot is a hero who proves that sometimes the most effective weapons are the most subtle, the original Sandman. And no, we're not talking about the dream-weaving entity from Neil Gaiman's masterpiece. This is Wesley Dodds, the Golden Age Sandman, who debuted in Adventure Comics number 40 in July 1939. Created by Gardner Fox, the co-creator of The Flash, Hawkman, and the Justice Society, and Burt Christman, this Sandman was a chillingly effective gas mask-clad detective who stalked the shadows, dispensing justice with his signature weapon, a specialized gun that emitted a powerful sleep-inducing gas. He was like a dark, noir nightmare, his appearance alone in that eerie gas mask, likely unsettling criminals before he even deployed his knockout gas. The original Sandman was a fascinating blend of Pulp Fiction's hard-boiled detectives and the emerging superhero archetype, proving that brains, a unique gimmick, and a terrifying look could be just as effective as brute strength. He was one of the first detective-style superheroes. Buzzing into our number 6 spot is a hero who proved that you don't need superpowers to be super, the original Blue Beetle, Dan Garrett. This Golden Age great, who debuted in Mystery Men Comics number 1 in August 1939, was a testament to the power of human ingenuity and determination. Created by Charles Nicholas Wojciechowski under the pen name Charles Nicholas. Unlike later incarnations of the Blue Beetle who relied on alien tech or mystical artifacts, Dan Garrett was a self-made hero, clad in a distinct distinctive bulletproof suit of blue chainmail. He was like a medieval knight for a modern age. But his real secret weapon? A special vitamin called Vitamin 2X, which granted him enhanced strength, agility, and allowing him to fight crime with extraordinary vigor. Blue Beetle showed that peak human condition, a sharp mind, and a dedication to justice could be just as effective as any superpower. Also interesting to note that years later, DC Comics would try to sue Fox Features Syndicate over Blue Beetle, claiming he was too similar to their character, Batman. This is ironic considering the next character on the list. Marking the halfway point at number 5 is a true pioneer, a character who shattered the glass ceiling of the comic book world, the groundbreaking Phantoma. Debuting in Jungle Comics number 2 in February 1940, Phantoma wasn't just another superhero. She was one of the first female superheroes ever. This mysterious protector of the jungle, created by the eccentric Fletcher Hanks, wielded a staggering array of supernatural powers. She could transform her beautiful face into a terrifying skull-like visage, project devastating energy blasts, manipulate the very elements of nature, and even, at times, fly, making her a force of nature in her own right. Phantoma was a far cry from the damsels in distress that often populated early comics. She was powerful, independent, and utterly unique. She predates Wonder Woman and paved the way for the strong, complex female heroes who would follow, proving that women could be just as powerful and just as compelling as their male counterparts in the superhero realm. Phantoma is often cited as the first female superhero with superhuman abilities. Many consider her to be the first true female superhero. It is also worth noting that DC Comics would later sue Fox Features Syndicate over Phantoma, claiming she was too similar to their character, Batman, which is even more ironic considering the number 4 entry on our list. Striding into number 4 is the legendary The Phantom. The Ghost Who Walks, created by Lee Falk in 1936, was a masked crime fighter who operated from the fictional African nation of Bengala. The Phantom's striking visual design, with his purple bodysuit and skull ring, and his reliance on his skills and intelligence instead of superpowers, made him a unique and influential figure in the early days of superhero comics. Unveiling the mystic arts at number 3 is Dr. Occult, created by Superman's creators, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster in 1935, created before Superman. Dr. Occult was a supernatural detective who battled evil forces using magic and psychic abilities. He predates many of the more famous magic users in comics. Dr. Occult is considered by many to be the first superhero created for DC Comics. Slashing his way to number 2 is the legendary Zorro. While not technically a comic book character originally, Zorro's influence on the superhero genre is undeniable. Created in 1919 by Johnston McCulley, Zorro was a masked swordsman who defended the people of Spanish California from tyranny. His secret identity, his swashbuckling fighting style, and his commitment to justice inspired many later superheroes, including Batman himself. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Our number 1 forgotten superhero who started it all is Mandrake the Magician. Created by Lee Falk, Mandrake debuted in his own newspaper comic strip in 1934. Mandrake was a master magician who used his powers of hypnotism and illusion to fight crime and protect the innocent. He possessed the ability to create illusions, hypnotize people, and even teleport. The Green Lama. This wealthy New Yorker, Jandar Drak, traded his riches for robes, becoming a Buddhist priest with some seriously super skills. First appearing in 1940, the Green Lama used his martial arts mastery, honed during his time in Tibet, and the power of levitation, achieved through deep meditative practices, to take down the bad guys. He wasn't just throwing punches, he was incorporating Eastern philosophy into his crime fighting, a unique blend of physical prowess and spiritual enlightenment. Sadly, his blend of Eastern philosophy and superheroism didn't quite resonate with audiences at the time, and he faded into obscurity, a victim of changing tastes and the rise of more straightforward punch-em-up heroes. But with meditation and mindfulness all the rage these days, maybe it's time for the Green Lama to find his inner peace and make a comeback. Imagine a Green Lama movie directed by, say, the Russo brothers, with Oscar Isaac as the Lama? I'd be there on opening night. We could see him grappling with the balance between his spiritual beliefs and his desire to fight injustice, a complex character ripe for exploration. Next up at number 9 is a hero who proves that even robots can have a heart of gold. Robot Archie. This mechanical marvel, a gleaming chrome creation, first appeared in the British comic magazine Lion in 1952. Originally a remote-controlled helper for a jungle explorer, Archie wasn't just a mindless machine. He eventually gained consciousness, developing a quirky and endearing personality as shiny as his chrome exterior. He wasn't just strong, he was witty with a charming British catchphrase, "Jolly good show," that perfectly captured his optimistic spirit. Sadly, Archie's adventures were cut short when Lion ceased publication, and he's been mostly forgotten ever since, a victim of the ever-changing comics landscape. But in a world obsessed with AI and robots, exploring the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, maybe it's time for this forgotten hero to reboot and return. He could offer a more lighthearted and humorous take on the robot narrative. I could totally see Robot Archie as a CGI animated movie, with Danny DeVito voicing the robot. Imagine the comedic possibilities. Archie's naivete and enthusiasm clashing with the complexities of the modern world. It's a story waiting to be told. Coming in at number 8 is a daredevil you might not know. Before the Man Without Fear, Matt Murdock swung onto the scene, there was another daredevil created by Lev Gleason Publications way back in 1940. This daredevil, Bart Hill, wasn't blinded. He was a district attorney who fought crime with a combination of acrobatic skills honed from a childhood spent in a traveling circus and a trusty boomerang. He even had a cool, if somewhat melodramatic, origin story involving childhood trauma, witnessing his parents' murder, and a facial scar as a constant reminder of his loss. This daredevil predates the Marvel version by over 2 decades, yet he was sadly overshadowed by his more famous namesake and faded into obscurity, another victim of the crowded superhero market. But with the character now in the public domain, meaning anyone can use him in their creative works, maybe it's time for this forgotten hero to make a daring return. Imagine the possibilities. A Daredevil limited series on Netflix with Charlie Cox playing both Daredevils. Now that's an idea. A crossover, or perhaps a story exploring the legacy of the name, delving into the different motivations and methods of these two very different heroes. It could be a fascinating exploration of justice and vigilantism. At number 7, we have a hero who proves that sometimes you have to fight fire with fire, the Black Terror. This pharmacist turned superhero first appeared in 1941. After creating a chemical that gave him superpowers, he donned a skull and crossbones costume and waged war on crime with his sidekick, Tim Rowland. The Black Terror was a popular character for Nidor Comics, but when the company went under, so did he. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, this hero has cheated death before, appearing in comics from various publishers over the years. Maybe it's time for him to rise again and show the world what he's really made of. A gritty Black Terror series on HBO Max, anyone? Soaring into our number 6 spot is a hero who proves that even with limitations, you can reach great heights. War Eagle. This Golden Age hero, first appearing in 1942, was a wealthy man who overcame childhood paralysis to become a winged superhero. He even built his own flight suit. Sadly, War Eagle's adventures were grounded when his comic was canceled, but his story of resilience and determination deserves to be told again. A War Eagle animated series on Disney Plus, maybe? I'd watch that. Landing in our number 5 spot is a hero who packs a punch and proves that girls can be superheroes too. Miss Victory. This Golden Age heroine, first appearing in 1941, was a stenographer by day and a super strong crime fighter by night. She wasn't afraid to throw a punch or two, and her patriotic costume was a symbol of hope in a time of war. Sadly, Miss Victory's victories were short-lived, but in a world where female superheroes are finally getting their due, maybe it's time for her to make a triumphant return. A Miss Victory movie starring, say, Hailey Steinfeld? Yes, please! Blazing into our number 4 spot is a hero who's more than just a flaming skull. The Blazing Skull. This World War II hero, first appearing in 1941, was a war correspondent who gained the power to become a fiery skeletal being. He was a member of the Invaders, a superhero team that fought alongside Captain America. Initially, his only power was invulnerability to fire, but he later gained super strength, a healing factor, and even the ability to control fire. Sadly, the Blazing Skull's flame fizzled out after the war, but his unique powers and eerie design have the potential to ignite a new generation of fans. A Blazing Skull horror movie on Hulu? I'm there. Riding into our number 3 spot is a hero who's a little bit cowboy, a little bit ghost, and a whole lot of awesome. The Phantom Rider. Originally known as Ghost Rider, he first appeared in 1967. This Wild West hero was an expert marksman and whip wielder who donned a phosphorescent white costume to fight crime. He even had a mask with special goggles that could drive villains mad. Sadly, he was overshadowed by the motorcycle-riding Ghost Rider and faded into the background. But with a unique blend of Western and supernatural elements, maybe it's time for the Phantom Rider to ride again. A Phantom Rider series on Netflix starring, say, Oscar Isaac? That would be epic. Blasting into our number 2 spot is a hero who's out of this world. Literally, Stardust the Super Wizard, an alien from a private star, first appeared in 1939. This cosmic crime fighter used his super senses and reality warping powers to keep Earth safe from afar. Sadly, Stardust's adventures ended after a brief comic book run, but his bizarre powers and outlandish origin story have the potential to be a supernova hit with today's audiences. A Stardust the Super Wizard movie with a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe? Sign me up! Taking the top spot at number 1 is a hero who may be the first superhero ever, Ogun Bat. This golden-skulled warrior predates both Superman and Batman, first appearing in Japan in 1930. With his skull face, golden skin, and flowing cape, Ogun Bat is a force to be reckoned with. He has super strength, can fly, and fights for justice from his secret base in the Japanese Alps. Despite his frightening appearance, Ogun Bat is a hero for the ages, and it's time he got the recognition he deserves. An Ogun Bat anime series on Crunchyroll? That's what I'm talking about. This cyborg soldier has seen the worst humanity has to offer. Once a soldier named Luther Manning, he was caught in the crossfire of a conflict that nearly destroyed him. He awoke in a dystopian future, his body rebuilt as a weapon of war. But despite the horrors he's endured and the programming that compels him to kill, Deathlok clings to the remnants of his humanity. He fights to control his destiny, battling his inner demons and striving to use his powers for good. Deathlok is a walking arsenal thanks to the cybernetic enhancements that give him the strength to tear through steel, the speed to outrun a speeding bullet, and the durability to shrug off explosions. He can also tap into any computer system, giving him an unparalleled edge in a world increasingly reliant on technology. With his combat skills, his knowledge of weaponry, and his tragic backstory, Deathlok could bring a new dimension to the MCU. Imagine him wrestling with the morality of his existence while fighting alongside the Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxy. At number 9, we have the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Don't let the name fool you. This superhero is more than just a bushy-tailed brawler. Doreen Green might look adorable, but she possesses the proportional speed and strength of a squirrel, which makes her surprisingly strong and agile. She can also talk to squirrels, an ability that has saved the day more times than you might imagine. But Squirrel Girl's true superpower is her ability to connect with others. She faces every challenge with unwavering optimism and an unshakable belief in the good in everyone, even her enemies. She's taken down some of the Marvel Universe's most formidable foes, including Thanos and Doctor Doom, not through brute force, but through empathy and understanding. She even convinced Galactus to spare Earth by offering him a planet made entirely of Utz. In a world where heroes often resort to violence, Squirrel Girl's unique approach to conflict resolution could be a game changer for the MCU. Coming in at number 8 is the enigmatic Sleepwalker. This alien superhero patrols the Mindscape, a dimension that links the minds of all living beings. While pursuing his archenemy, Cobweb, he became trapped in the mind of a college student named Rick Sheridan. Now, he emerges from Rick's mind while he sleeps, battling the nightmares that plague humanity. Sleepwalker is a force to be reckoned with, possessing superhuman strength, speed, and durability. He can also fly, teleport, and manipulate the shape of objects with his warp gadget. But his most impressive ability is his power to amplify the mental powers of other psychics. Imagine him joining forces with Professor X, Jean Grey, or Scarlet Witch to create a psychic force unlike anything the MCU has ever seen. At number 7, we have the freedom-fighting free spirit. Kathy Webster is more than just a skilled athlete and martial artist. She's a woman of action, driven by a fierce independent spirit and an unwavering commitment to justice. After being chosen by the Grandmaster to compete in a multiversal game, she was inspired to use her enhanced abilities to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Free Spirit's powers might seem simple at first glance, but her enhanced strength, speed, and agility, coupled with her ability to defy gravity, make her a formidable opponent. She's also a brilliant strategist and a natural leader, capable of inspiring others to fight for what's right. Free Spirit's unwavering dedication to her ideals and her refusal to back down from a challenge would make her a perfect fit for the MCU. Coming in at number 6 is the magnetic mistress, Polaris. The daughter of Magneto, Lorna Dane inherited her father's ability to control magnetism. But Unlike her father, she's chosen to use her powers to protect the innocent and fight for a better world. Polaris is a walking electromagnetic phenomenon. She can manipulate magnetic fields to fly, create force fields, and control metal objects with the flick of her wrist. She can even control the iron in people's blood, a power that gives her a unique and potentially deadly edge in combat. But Polaris' story is more than just her powers. She's a complex character who has struggled with mental health issues and the weight of her family legacy. Her internal battles and her unwavering determination to forge her own path make her a compelling and relatable hero. At number 5, we have the noble warrior, Beta Ray Bill. This alien hero proved himself worthy of wielding Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, granting him powers similar to the god of thunder. But Beta Ray Bill is more than just a Thor clone. He's a noble and honorable warrior with a strong sense of duty and a tragic past. Beta Ray Bill's people, the Corbinites, were facing annihilation. To save them, he underwent a radical transformation, sacrificing his own body to become a cyborg warrior. Now, he travels the cosmos in his sentient warship, Scuttlebutt, protecting the innocent and battling the forces of evil. With his unique design, his impressive powers, and his compelling backstory, Beta Ray Bill could bring a visually stunning and emotionally resonant presence to the MCU. Coming in at number 4 is the powerful psychic, Moondragon. Heather Douglas is one of the most formidable telepaths on Earth. She can control the minds of others, manipulate matter with her thoughts, and even fly. But her journey has been fraught with challenges and inner turmoil. Moondragon's powers are truly formidable, but she's also a complex character with a troubled past. She's walked a fine line between heroism and villainy, struggling to control her immense abilities and overcome her arrogance. With her indomitable will and her unwavering determination, Moondragon could be a fascinating and unpredictable addition to the MCU. At number 3, we have the Cosmic Crusader, Quasar. Wendell Vaughn is a former TIELD agent who wields the quantum bands, ancient alien artifacts that grant him mastery over energy. He's a skilled fighter, a brilliant strategist, and a dedicated protector of the universe. Quasar's powers are truly cosmic in scope. He can fly, teleport, create energy constructs, and even manipulate matter. He can even create apertures into the quantum zone, a dimension of infinite energy, allowing him to travel vast distances in the blink of an eye. With his incredible abilities and his unwavering commitment to justice, Quasar could be a key player in the MCU's cosmic adventures. Coming in at number 2 is the one-of-a-kind Machine Man X-51, also known as Aaron Stack, is a robot with a human heart. He longs to understand what it means to be human, to experience emotions and connect with others. Machine Man is incredibly strong, durable, and fest with a variety of built-in weapons and gadgets at his disposal. But his true strength lies in his unique perspective and his unwavering determination to find his place in the world. With his blend of action and introspection, Machine Man could bring a thought-provoking and action-packed presence to the MCU. And finally, at number 1, it's the soaring superhero, American Eagle. Jason Strongbow is a Native American hero with a deep connection to his heritage. He's a symbol of strength, courage, and resilience, dedicated to protecting his people and his land. American Eagle's powers are rooted in his Native American heritage. He possesses superhuman strength, speed, and agility, making him a formidable warrior. He's also a skilled archer, capable of hitting targets with pinpoint accuracy. But American Eagle's greatest strength is his unwavering commitment to his values and his people. He could bring a new dimension to the MCU's exploration of diversity and representation, showcasing the rich history and traditions of Native American culture. So there you have it, the top 10 forgotten Marvel superheroes who could save the MCU. These are characters with the power, the personality, and the backstory to make a real impact on the big screen. Hopefully, Marvel Studios will take notice and give these heroes the chance they deserve. What do you think? Which of these forgotten heroes would you like to see in the MCU? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome Marvel content. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has introduced us to a vast array of heroes, but there are still countless others waiting to be discovered. These forgotten heroes offer a chance for the MCU to explore new themes, diversify its cast of characters, and address some of the criticisms it has faced in recent years. Imagine Deathlock grappling with the ethics of artificial intelligence in a world where technology is rapidly advancing. Picture Squirrel Girl reminding us of the power of empathy and understanding in a universe often defined by conflict. Envision American Eagle bringing the rich history and traditions of Native American culture to the forefront of the MCU. These characters could appear in a variety of upcoming projects. Perhaps Deathlock could join the Thunderbolts, a team of reformed villains and anti-heroes. Maybe Squirrel Girl could make a surprise appearance in the next Spider-Man movie. Or perhaps American Eagle could team up with Echo, another Native American hero, in her upcoming Disney Plus series. The possibilities are endless, and the future of the MCU is bright with the potential of these forgotten heroes.
Captain Atom is like Shazam in the sense that they were both characters DC amalgamated from other publishers. Shazam came from Fawcett Comics, whereas Captain Atom came from Charlton Comics, which, by the way, is the same publisher that Peacemaker also initially hailed from. But while Peacemaker has only become more relevant with time, thanks to his amazing HBO Max and DC live-action series, Captain Atom has become less and less relevant, sadly. He was considered a powerhouse back in the day, capable of reconstructing matter, self-sustenance, teleportation, and even time manipulation, to name a few of his abilities. But you wouldn't know it to see him lately. He rarely appears now, and when he does, it's normally to get beat up by other folks who he should, in theory, outclass, like Gotham Girl and The Fraction. Are there any heroes who you feel have been disrespected like this? Let me know in the comments, because this always bothers me when stuff like this happens. Captain Atom also served as the inspiration for Watchmen's Dr. Manhattan, but today, Dr. Manhattan, I would say, is more well-known and more relevant than Captain Atom himself now is. Wild. Speaking of someone who is less relevant now than when they first appeared, Maxima was initially a villain in the comics somewhat before she became a hero. She was introduced to us as an alien attracted to Earth kind of by Superman, whom she sought to become her mate, abandoning her betrothed at the time, Ultra. She made her first appearance in the 90s and honestly was a super 90s character. Like, look at this costume. Look at her original New Earth costume. That was what she was, at least to start. In modern day, Maxima is still a queen and is an ally to Superman. She also ends up being in love with a woman and actually gets help from Wonder Woman to keep both her crown and her partner, but even then, that story actually happened back in 2020, so still, it's been a while. And that's with, once again, a Maxima who I feel like has been changed somewhat. This next character, who is someone who has been in and out of the spotlight for a while, swapping out now and then with another character who shares her hero name, is once again out of the spotlight. And I want to know, why can't we have both? When it comes to Huntress, it seems like we can only ever have one of them at a time for some reason. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a big fan of Helena Wayne, of which we now have a version back again in this new golden age. But where, oh where, is Helena Bertinelli? I feel like anytime one Helena is in, the other one has to be out. Look at how many Spider-Mans Marvel has. I mean, I think we can handle 2 Huntresses, no? I feel like DC is like, you can't, you'll be confused. I'm like, dude, if I can understand your continuity, I can understand anything. Anything. I could be a brain surgeon right now, but instead I read comics. The Huntress we are currently missing here is Helena Bertinelli, an ally of the Batman family and a member of the original Birds of Prey. Helena has sworn to fight against organized crime as part of a personal vendetta to get back at those who killed her family. She also has come into conflict with other vigilantes due to her willingness to kill her enemies, at least initially. As far as I can tell, the last major appearance of Bertinelli's Huntress was in the Shadows of the Bat event in 2022 when she appeared in Detective Comics. But yeah, I feel like since Helena Wayne has come back in, she's kind of taken more of a back seat. So even though she did appear in that event, it still feels like we haven't really seen her. She's not as prominent as she used to be. This next character was so far out of the continuity that when I started watching Arrow vs. The Flash, I thought Cisco was a completely new character and hero who was made for this show. Yeah, that's how little I knew about this character, and I'm supposed to know everything about every character. Cisco Ramon in the Flash show is a member of Barry Allen's Team Flash. He eventually goes on to gain premonition powers, which allow him to see into the future, which he calls vibing. He can basically like touch a person and kind of see into their future, taking the superhero name for himself of Vibe. In the series, Cisco gets his powers from the same event that granted Barry his, the particle accelerator explosion, at least initially. And I was surprised to learn that the character of Vibe was actually inspired by the original Vibe who appeared in the comics, or at least the Prime Earth version of Vibe, which was inspired by the original Vibe. The original comic book Vibe was Paco Ramon, whose powers were based in sonic waves, and who hails from the New Earth continuity. Now, the New 52 version from the Prime Earth continuity is Cisco Ramon, who first appeared back in 2012. He gets his powers from one of Darkseid's boom tubes, being exposed to the boom tube, which resulted in his DNA basically being rewritten, giving him powers. His powers are based on vibrational energy, allowing him to emit shock waves, but that's not all. He can also use his vibrational powers to sense and create holes in reality, allowing him to travel to other Earths. He can also vibe with people and get a sense of their past or present, but unlike the show, not their future. These next two heroes I'm going to talk about are a package deal. But we'll start off with the first one in the set, Hawk. Or at least the first one in terms of how most people order their names, I'd say. So, who is Hawk? He is one of the many Hank Halls to have existed over at DC Comics. Possibly one of the reasons why he's faded into the background. There's been a few Hank Halls, honestly. DC tends to shy away from characters who they think, like I said, might be too confusing. Huntress. Any Hank Halls, never seemingly considering that the continuity might be the most confusing thing for fans. Me included. Maybe you too. Hank's Hawk was initially paired up with his brother and is known as an avatar of war. There have been many Hawks since then, but they've pretty much all come and gone since they've been introduced, and now we're back to Hank. The last we saw of Hank, I believe, was in Batman the Brave and the Bold, where he appeared in a cameo capacity alongside the current Dove. Alongside Hawk is typically Dove, the avatar of peace. Initially, this was Hank's brother, Dawn. Then following Dawn's death, it became Dawn Granger, who is a girl, Dawn D-A-W-N, who would act as Dove opposite her sister, Holly Granger. Currently, Dawn as Dove works in tandem with Hank, who is Hawk once more. Dove also, I believe, hasn't been seen since her cameo appearance alongside Hank in Batman the Brave and the Bold, and like Hawk, she is also not a prominent hero at DC Comics in the current continuity. At least, I wouldn't consider them to be prominent myself. Some characters fade into the background over time, and some fade into the background only shortly after being introduced to us. I'm actually sad that this hero didn't end up making it as a mainstay. Sideways was one of the heroes we got from what was supposed to be a new era of superheroes. These were all original and new DC heroes created as part of an initiative to basically bring something fresh to the table. Fresh characters, fresh heroes, as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over again. Sideways was kind of similar to Marvel's Spider-Man in terms of his look and to a certain extent his personality. He was a young hero thrown into the world of superheroes, struggling to find his place, a sense of balance, and get a handle on his new teleportation-based powers. Derek James, as Sideways, had the main power of opening up rifts, in some cases interdimensional ones, which he could use to teleport him and others through. While a cool and promising character initially, he got his own self-titled series, but afterwards faded more into the background. His last appearance was more of a cameo and background one in the Dark Crisis event. This next hero hasn't even really got that courtesy though, it seems. For me, Dolphin is one of those characters that I feel like was really cool, and I'm always anticipating her return as a result because I just want to see more of her. But as far as I can tell, we haven't seen her since 2017 in the comics when she appeared in Volume 8 of Aquaman. Now granted, there is a possibility I could be wrong about this, or honestly any other character on the list, and if I am, I'm sorry, do let me know in the comments. I have an approximate knowledge of many things.
I have approximate knowledge of many things.
And the exact last appearances of characters, especially in the DC Comics world continuity, which are a little harder to verify without going back through every single issue from the publisher because of how information is categorized online. When it comes to Dolphin though, I know she is not well known enough for folks to know who I was talking about when I reacted to the Aquaman 2 trailer on my YouTube channel and incorrectly guessed that she might be the woman in the white costume who actually turned out to be Atlanta, Aquaman's mom. I thought maybe Queen Mara would die in the film and then Dolphin would basically come in to replace her as Aquaman's romantic partner. I was super psyched. I was like, oh my gosh, is Dolphin gonna be in this movie? Oh my gosh, I'm so ready. But I was very wrong about that. Still, Dolphin is a character I'd love to see more of in the DCU and in the comics. In the New Earth continuity, she is the result of an alien experiment, but in the Prime Earth continuity, she's an Atlantean. In both realities, she is an ally of Aquaman, and in the New Earth reality, she even ends up married to his adopted son, Tempest, with the two having a child together whose name's Ceridian. Unfortunately, in that continuity, she and Ceridian perish when Atlantis is destroyed by the Spectre. Even in that continuity, she's gone. And in our continuity, we haven't seen her in a long time. Moving on, Aztec in the Prime Earth continuity was a hero who was introduced for one story arc in Justice League of America. Set up to be a much larger and important character in the canon, and then, without much warning, just faded into the background. Since then, she has made a few appearances in Wonder Woman. I will give you that she appeared in Tales of the Titans last September in issue number 3, but at the same time, this is after not appearing for a few years, and even then her appearances have not really been major. Aztec is Nayeli Constant, who was given the power and responsibility of becoming a hero by her helm. As Aztec, she is tasked with continuing the ancient never-ending fight against the dark god Tezcatlipoca. I bet most people also didn't even know that she was a legacy hero. Yeah, she is. Before we had Nayeli, we also had Uno, who appears in both the New Earth and Prime Earth continuity. But despite DC trying to make Uno's Aztec a thing, it actually did not work out at all. He was only around for about 4 years, with him also getting his battle suit and helmet as well, and that's where his powers come from. They brought him back for the Prime Earth continuity, but only so they could basically kill him off, with Nayeli inheriting his helm, suit, and mantle, and I guess they were hoping, she could be Aztec, and maybe everyone will be into it, and then nothing really happened with Aztec. Finally, a few years back, DC hosted their Round Robin, where fans got to vote for which characters and teams would get comic series. One of the series I wanted to happen was focused on this hero, Captain Carrot. Captain Carrot is Rodney Rabbit. In the Prime Earth continuity, he is a Superman-like hero who hails from his own Earth, filled with other anthropomorphic animals like himself, Earth 26, formerly known as Earth C back in the New Earth continuity. Needless to say, Captain Carrot did not make the cut for DC's Round Robin. I know I was one of the few that wanted that to happen, so I'm still waiting for him to come back into the spotlight again. He hasn't really been around in the comics since 2017.
Kicking off the list at number 10 today is Dead Man. Boston Brand was the only son of Gary and Barbara Brand, and his parents were very much not great. When his parents didn't fight each other, they took out their anger on Boston. Because of that, when he was 16 years old, he lashed out against his parents and ran away from home. As you do when you are a fictional character who runs away from home, Boston joined the circus and eventually became an elite gymnast and trapeze performer. While that was great for him, he could not leave his past behind and frequently sought out some form of peace in the bottle and would often become physical with people. Everything for Boston changed though when during one show an assassin from the League of Assassins named Hook took his life during his trapeze performance. When he passed away, Boston was placed in between life and death by the Hindu goddess of balance, Rama Kushna. She told him that he needed to atone for his past transgressions and egocentrism. As punishment, he was to return to the world as a ghost, invisible to most of the world, and he was to better the lives of others using his ghostly abilities, namely the ability to possess others. Now, I don't know about you, but I could see that being easily adapted into a pretty compelling movie. If you've ever seen the Ricky Gervais movie Ghost Town, just take that and superfy it. Number 9. Hellcat. During her formative years, Patsy Walker's fame-obsessed mother, Dorothy, would use her daughter as a way to make a buck, usually while also living vicariously through her daughter, and constantly disapproving of her tomboy nature. Dorothy would pressure her daughter into modeling, and when that didn't work out, due to Patsy's own lack of interest and commitment, Dorothy started a comic book containing fictionalized romantic adventures of her daughter as a teenager, which is super weird. Despite being super creepy, this did give Patsy Walker some notoriety in the Marvel Universe before she finally joined up with the heroes she idolized, the Avengers. And that story itself is kind of funny. Because, basically, using tactics learned from her mother, Patsy blackmailed the mutant Hank McCoy, aka Beast, into helping her transform into a superhero. Patsy tracked down Beast while he was an Avenger and forced him to allow her to accompany them on a mission. During the Avengers ride-along, Patsy found an old costume that once belonged to Greer Nelson, aka Tigra, who could also get her own movie, just saying, but during her early days as the Cat. Now Patsy took the gear for herself and assumed the identity Hellcat. Thanks to the suit, her natural ability plus experience over time with training from Moondragon and her husband Damon Hellstrom, Hellcat has become a force to be reckoned with in Marvel Comics. I think her origin story is pretty damn unique, and I think with a little tweaking it can make for an impactful and pretty awesome movie. Number 8. The Question. Vic Sage, aka The Question, is one one of the greatest detectives of the DC universe. Yes, even ranking upside along Batman. Despite having no superpowers, his analytical abilities, finding clues which are overlooked by most people, plus his skill as a fearsome interrogator and martial artist, somewhat on par with Batman, and his faceless mask made of an experimental material called pseudoderm that enables him to change disguises easily, plus his somewhat eccentric personality, make him an incredibly interesting and kinda somewhat creepy protagonist. An old school detective noir movie can easily make him a fan favorite. For any of you who have seen Zack Snyder's Watchmen or who have read the DC comic of the same name, the character of Rorschach was based off of The Question, so we already know that a character like this can work on film. It's just a matter of creating a story that the character can support all on his own. I also think that even a story about his protege, Renee Montoya, would also potentially be even better. Number 7. Zatanna. A lot of people sleep on Zatanna, and that is a mistake. Zatanna is part of the Homo Magi race, giving her a genetic talent for magic that makes her one of the greatest magic users in the DC universe. Zatanna was born with magic, but she's not limited by that. With the addition of learned magics, Zatanna can cast a whole multitude of spells that allow her to do things like travel dimensions, summon objects and beings, perform telekinesis and advanced telepathy, redirect and return attacks, mess with the weather or even time of day, manipulate her own size, transform into basically anything, become intangible, and manipulate magical versions of the elements. But that's all the basic stuff. She can cast spells that can manipulate reality, alter the molecular structure of objects, and move forward, backwards, and freeze time itself. And that's not even getting into what she can do with black magic. She has the potential to make child's play out of most of the people in the Justice League despite that fact. But Zatanna's backstory of becoming a successful stage illusionist before discovering her true magical powers and her half Homo Magi parentage while investigating the disappearance of her father? You can't tell me that wouldn't make for a great movie. Number 6. Martian Manhunter. John Johns, or John Jones on Earth, is another character that people really sleep on. But this guy is insane with his level of ability. John is the last of his race of Martians, and he is extremely powerful and should never be slept on. He speaks with the resolve and intelligence of someone who's been around for a very hot minute, and that's because he has been. According to DC Comics, he is in the ballpark of around or over 220 million years old. John arrived on Earth after he was pulled here through space and time by a teleportation beam during an experiment conducted by a Dr. Saul Erdel, who passed away from the shock of actually finding a Martian shortly afterwards, which actually kind of makes sense. But way before that, John's race, the Martians, were practically wiped out a long time ago, leaving him completely alone and isolated. But now, pulled forward in time and finally on Earth with no one to tell him what the heck was going on, he eventually used his shapeshifting abilities to become a detective, operating in Middletown, America. He mainly operated from the safety of his human persona before he eventually exposed himself to the world and became a founding member of the Justice League, and also one of its most powerful members, being even stronger and more capable than Superman with an even more impressive list of abilities. And that makes him a good candidate for a movie, just saying. Number 5. Mr. Miracle. This one would be a bit of a different movie, and I think it would work well as a duo with the character of Orion. Basically, Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, is the son of DC's Highfather, who is essentially the opposite to the villain Darkseid. As part of a truce with Darkseid, Scott was traded with Darkseid's son, Orion. While Orion got to live a pretty good life with Highfather and become a hero, Scott was treated incredibly badly living on Apokolips as basically a prisoner of Darkseid. But despite the hellish conditions on Apokolips, Scott was able to retain his inherent goodness, and using his skill as a master escape artist, and despite the fact that he is a pacifist, he escaped from Darkseid's clutches. Telling that story in a movie format would be awesome, and then it could lead into more stories with the rest of DC's roster of cinematic heroes. I personally think his story is incredibly interesting and unique. Number 4. Darkhawk. Christopher Powell was the son of a cop and a district attorney, and when he witnessed his father taking a bribe from a mob boss, he happened to stumble upon an amulet that gave him the ability to transfer his consciousness to the Darkhawk armor. This ancient Shi'ar magical armor is very cool, and it gave Chris quite the set of abilities. Obviously, the classic superhuman strength, speed, durability, agility, and reflexes are all here in excess, but the armor allowed for armament conjuration from the extra-dimensional expanse, whatever that means, and basically had untapped potential. As time went on and he eventually gained the ability to go to space, he learned of the Shi'ar origins of his suit and of the fraternity of raptors, that are basically like Marvel's over-the-top, super cool space cops. Almost like Green Lanterns, but cooler and less utilized. I'm just imagining how Darkhawk could fit into the MCU's ever-expanding roster and stories, and I think it would be a missed opportunity to not include the character. Number 3, Starbrand. Starbrand isn't so much a singular person as it is a power in and of itself. Right now, the current Starbrand in the 616 universe is Brandy Selby, the daughter of Suzanne Selby, who became the Starbrand after the one before her, Kevi Connor, passed away. The Avengers stepped in and had to help Suzanne deliver little Brandy, an act that caused Suzanne to pass away, sadly, and attach the Starbrand to Brandy. Since Brandy's birth, she's used the Starbrand to fly and survive without oxygen and in the vacuum of space, and she can use extremely powerful energy blasts that can take down multiple people at once. But the Starbrand itself is an incredible source of power, proven by other people who have wielded it. The bearer of Earth 723's Starbrand used the power to create music that can influence human behavior, to the extent that he has unified the people of his world as a single hive mind. Earth 541 is the home of a Starbrand bearer who has conquered his world and installed himself as the head of a benevolent monarchical dictatorship, but like a good one that actually somehow works despite the lack of freedom. The Starbrand power takes on many different forms, but doesn't seem to be bound by physics, and supplies the bearer infinite power limited only by their imagination. While that kind of power sort of breaks a lot of things in the MCU, the amount of Starbrand bearers going back millions of years gives a plethora of character stories to pick from, and I mean, let's be honest, someone being granted an ancient incredible power is a classic basis for a superhero movie. Number 2, Nightwing. Now, Nightwing is in no way a forgotten hero, not even a little bit. But explain to me how we have had around 11 Batman live-action movies, and I don't think Nightwing has appeared as Nightwing in a single one. Well, now I don't want him just featured, I want a full-on Nightwing movie in Bloodhaven with little to no Batman. Of all the members of the Bat family, Dick Grayson was not only the very first, but for a lot of people, including me, he is the favorite. Born to a family of acrobats, orphaned and then taken in by Bruce Wayne, Dick became the very first Robin, appearing in Detective Comics number 38 in 1940, created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, and illustrated by Jerry Robinson. As you can imagine, he has a long history, and as such, a large amount of experience and proficiency. He was the leader of the Teen Titans for a while, and when his Robin career came to an end, he became Nightwing to honor another hero by the same name from Krypton, Superman's home planet. He has gone on to take the Batman mantle a couple of times, but honestly, it was in 1995 and 1996 when he received his own stories that he really became his own. To set Nightwing apart from Batman, he was given his own city, the decaying harbor town known as Bloodhaven, which was just north of Gotham. It allowed him to be close enough to Gotham to stay part of the Batman family, as well as have his own city and series of adventures, and honestly, some of them are even darker and somewhat better and more compelling than some of Batman's own stories. And finally, in at number 1, Blue Marvel. A former Marine and scientist turned superhero, Adam Brashear is not only one of the strongest heavy hitters in Marvel Comics, but he is also one of the smartest characters and one of my absolute underutilized favorites. His origins take place in the 1960s during a project to use antimatter as an energy source. Adam and his best friend Connor were caught in an explosion that turned Adam into a living, stable antimatter reactor. Luckily, this also gave him superpowers, which he used to become the masked hero known as the Blue Marvel. Unfortunately though, Connor became unstable both physically and mentally and became the incredibly powerful villain Anti-Man. During one of their biggest and climactic fights, the Blue Marvel's mask was torn, revealing to the world that he was African American. Due to the socio-political climate of America in the 1960s, President John F. Kennedy asked Blue Marvel to take an early retirement to ease racial tensions. It wasn't until decades decades later in the modern age that Adam would once again step up as the Blue Marvel, one of the most interesting and powerful heroes the world has, yet one that often feels really underappreciated. A movie for this character would give him the fame that he rightly deserves.
Number 10. Sentry. Okay. I know we all probably are familiar with the Sentry ourselves, but we can't have a list about forgotten heroes and just not mention the Sentry, the greatest hero that the world forgot. Sentry has a super sad story, so grab some tissues and hold them close while I regale you. Robert Reynolds was an addict who, after sneaking into a lab late one night looking for a fix, stumbled upon the Golden Sentry formula. After he had quaffed the formula, I love that word, quaffed, he was transformed into the Sentry, an amazing hero with a slew of powerful abilities. We're talking flight, teleportation, molecule manipulation, super strength, and super speed, virtually invulnerability, to name a few. Unfortunately, Robert's mind was unstable, and while embodying the superhero Sentry, he also became his antithesis, the Void. In a last-ditch attempt to save the world from the effects of his supervillain alter ego, Mr. Fantastic was forced to create a device that would make Robert and the whole world forget about the Sentry, hoping that it would destroy the Void and protect Robert from the darker side of himself. So yeah, we didn't really forget about him, but everyone in the comics forgot about him. So yeah. Number 9. Green Lama. Introduced in the 1940s, the Green Lama was a hero who embodied the ideals of Buddhism. Oddly enough, sort of like a Buddhist Batman, though his look echoes that of Green Arrow, or even perhaps Green Lantern. In other words, it involves a lot of green, and even a cute little cape. Though interestingly enough, the Green Lama is not a DC hero and not a Marvel one either. He comes to us from Moonstone Books Publishing and was introduced in their Double Detective series, volume number 5. Something unique that he brings is a more Eastern inspired outlook, which would be even more interesting if he were a genuine character from Tibet perhaps. Instead, he is a student of Buddhism who studied in Tibet but is from New York. He returned to New York to share his Buddhist beliefs and provide spiritual guidance, but he ultimately decided that the mystical Buddhist powers he had acquired were even more useful fighting crime. When I said he was similar to Batman, I was responding to his crime-fighting beliefs, and that he does not use a gun, believing they would make him just as bad as those who he seeks to defeat. And the fact that he's also super rich. Number 8. Phantom Rider, also known as Knight Rider. No, I'm not talking about that Knight Rider, the classic TV show starring David Hasselhoff and his high-tech car KITT. Though Michael Knight is a hero too, I suppose. I am talking about Marvel's Knight Rider, aka Phantom Rider, aka Ghost Rider. That's right, this Ghost Rider actually predates Johnny Blaze. Carter Slade, the horse-riding boxing champion of the Wild West, who is the Phantom Rider, would have been known as Ghost Rider as well had they not introduced Johnny after Slade's death in the comics in 1972. Carter Slade was a man who was near death when he was taken in and revived by Native Americans who realized that he was a man destined to fight injustice. They healed him, gave him some magic powder, snazzy white cape, and a white horse. He went on to round up criminals, but met his end sacrificing his life for his brothers, crushed by rubble. His brother Lincoln Slade would eventually adopt his mantle, Phantom Rider. Both have returned in spirit form, but have never been fully resurrected. Number 7. Jill Trent, also known as the Science Sleuth. Jill Trent was a hero based out of the US. She took on criminals and solved mysteries with detective and inventing skills, and the power of science. Science is pretty cool. She also had her friend Daisy to accompany her. Her and Daisy even shared a bed, which makes a lot of people speculate that she could have been one of the first queer heroes to have ever appeared in comics. Jill Trent made her debut in The Fighting Yank Volume 6 in 1943, originally published by Neater Publishing, who has since then ceased operations. I think Jill would be a rad hero to bring back. I would love to see a female, possibly queer scientist take down some criminals. Who wouldn't? Number 6. Forget-Me-Not. Although this X-Men was recently introduced, making his debut in the comics in 2014, you may have already forgotten him. Though, like with the Sentry, that might not be your fault. Forget-Me-Not's abilities is imperceptibility. That is to say, it is almost impossible to remember him, and he is also hard to target. As your mind struggles hard to remember him, that can also leave him sometimes undetectable. His powers are so strong, they even mess with those who also possess telepathic gifts, including Charles Xavier, who basically had to set an hourly psychic alarm to remind himself of Forget-Me-Not's existence, so he wouldn't forget. Now, that's someone who everyone could forget about. Wait, who are we talking about again? Number 5. Cyber 6. When it comes to this hero/heroine, I mostly think back to the cartoon series inspired by the comics, and watching it late at night on TV as a kid. The cartoon series, by the way, was actually produced in Vancouver, Canada, fun fact, though the animation was done in Japan. The comic book series, like the cartoon series, also originated in the 1990s. The comic series originated in Argentina, although it was published in Italy. Cyber 6 is a story of a genetically engineered woman who goes by the same name. She escaped her creator, a Nazi overlord who seeks world domination. Living in the city, she adopts the identity of a male literature teacher named Adrian Seidelman by day, and fights off her creator's creatures at night, who have been sent after her. Cyber 6 also uncovers many mysteries in regards to her past, fellow siblings known as Cybers, and her evil creator's dastardly plots. Number 4. Captain Ultra. We may forget this hero for good reason. When Captain Ultra is first introduced in the comics, making a brief appearance in Fantastic Four Volume 1 issue 177, it is revealed that he has a fear of fire. That's one of the first things we learn about him. Yep. And when I say he has a fear, what I really mean is he is borderline terrified, to the point that someone lights a cigarette, just lights a match, and he faints. Griffin Goggle, yep, that is Captain Ultra's real life name, is what I like to call a background hero. From his brief stint with the Defenders to the tiniest of appearances in the Civil War II event, Griffin is a hero who never really comes to the forefront in the comics, which is why he is probably one who often remains forgotten. He's also a bit of a knob. When flirting with Hellcat, he gets overly competitive and aggressive with Nova and Jack of Hearts, who he deems as threats to their love. And keep in mind, he's just met her at this point. Later, when Hellcat asks the heroes to stop fighting over her, Captain Ultra instead gets aggressive with her and accuses her of playing the field. Oh boy. Maybe a hero better forgotten. Number 3. Scorpion. Wait, no, not that Scorpion. The other Scorpion. I'm talking about Carmilla Black. If you are not familiar with Carmilla Black, no worries at all. I'm going to give you some facts that will probably cause you to want to track her down, as she is not someone who is often explored in the comics, which is unfortunate because she's pretty awesome. She was genetically created by AIM, but didn't know about this until later, as she was raised by adoptive parents who were also secretly AIM agents. Surprise. Her powers surfaced on her prom night, causing what she calls her stinger arm to accidentally shoot her boyfriend and kill him. As if prom night isn't usually awkward enough, jeez. Her abilities allow her full immunity to most toxins. In fact, she has the ability to absorb toxins and convert them into her own biological weapon, which she can then use to prick her enemies with via her stinger arm. While often being involved in heroic tasks, she has been involved in both good and bad organizations, having worked for both S.H.I.E.L.D. and Hydra. Woo! And fun fact, she even beat Matt Gargan in a fight after he came after her for using his old name. He had the Venom symbiote with him at the time, and her body was able to absorb some of it and create a Neo symbiote, which she used to send Gargan running before the Neo symbiote died, as a result of her body being too toxic for it. Number 2. Azrael. Whatever happened to Azrael? You might remember this controversial hero as Batman. After the events of Nightfall, Bruce Wayne is forced to relinquish his title while taking time to heal after he had his back broken. He entrusts Gotham to Azrael and asks him to watch over the city and take up the mantle of Batman while he's away. Jean-Paul Valley was trained to be used as a tool by a radical and evil religious group called the Order of Saint Dumas, a group who were once part of the historical Knights Templars. Ooh. And unfortunately, this resulted in him being, well, a little crazy. He regained the city as Batman, taking it back from Bane, and then began a brutal onslaught of vigilante justice. While he didn't kill Bane, he brutalized him and every other criminal he came across, no matter how minor. He actually almost killed the Joker. It was his lack of restraint and madness that ended up leading to his downfall as Batman. And when Bruce returned, the two ended up having to battle over the title of Batman. Jean-Paul was reluctant to give it up. Once forced to give it up by Bruce, who won the fight, he wandered homeless and crazy for a while. He ended up defeating the Order of Saint Dumas eventually, whom he realized were his enemies, but after that he basically just became Bruce's and the Bat family's assistant, helping him whenever he was called upon and acting on Bruce's every order. He died and was briefly resurrected as a Black Lantern, but it would be nice to see a real return of Azrael in the comics. Maybe a story where he tries to find and follow his own path? Number 1. Stardust, the Super Wizard, one of the oldest superheroes on our list. Stardust, the Super Wizard, comes to us from the Fantastic Comics collection. He debuted in issue number 1 in 1939. The series was published by Fox Feature Syndicate, and each issue had a collection of short heroic stories. While you may remember the main hero, Samson, Stardust is one of the others that have fallen by the wayside. Probably one of the first cosmic heroes. Stardust is often seen flying around outer space trying to bust criminal space wizards. Yeah, apparently Apparently, criminal space wizards were a thing back in the 1930s. His comics are a combo of sci-fi and superheroics, as he fights criminals with his astounding number of different rays. He's a wizard with a ray for every different occasion. Boomerang ray, transporting ray, reducing ray, all the rays. And beams sometimes too. Sometimes he uses beams. If you weren't aware of the Fantastic Comics collections, you should check them out. There is even a sort of female superhero snuck in one of the issues. I say sort of because she wasn't really given a title, but her name is Alice, and she is both the romantic partner and adventure partner of Richard, the Golden Knight, who is also featured in the series.